Is that not the largest roundabout you've ever seen? Welcome to DC, baby. I'm straight in the middle of DC. You can kind of see some of the people there are walking their dogs. And I'm here to do something really exciting. I'm going to be going to a museum. Look at that. Yeah, that is not the nation's capital. It's just a building that kind of looks like it. It looks kind of big from here, but it's smaller than the nation's capital building. Whatever that one's called. I forgot what it's called. But yeah, there's the American flag. It's pretty cool, huh? Okay, so I drove past that thing. That was, I think, the White House. I was wrong. It got a lot larger when I got up close. So I was wrong about that thing right there. When you get like right next to it and you drive past it, that thing, maybe it wasn't the White House. Look up there, rooftop bar. I'm literally right in the middle of DC. Look at all these people everywhere. So I parked a little bit too far ahead of this traffic light. So people are kind of like running behind me. The traffic light changed at the very last second, so I kind of had to stop a little bit late. Oh, look at that police car. It's flashing, but there's no sound, so should be chill. Oh no. So here I am on a Saturday afternoon in the parking garage, having parked my car in this place. It's pretty cool. Some type of fitness center here. I specifically chose this day, this Saturday, to come here because it's cold and no one else will be out and about, in theory, which means I get this museum to myself. There really isn't anyone. Now there's more people. Alright, so here's how I perceive DC compared to New York. It's a bit slower paced, still hectic, very similar in many ways with the taxis and the street stalls and stuff, but less hectic, less people, less dirty, but a similar vibe. The buildings aren't as tall and everything's more compact and smushed into a 10-mile radius versus the 100 or so mile radius of New York. So I think it's kind of like a quainter way of doing things. Not saying I like it or don't like it. I think it's okay. But that's just how I'm perceiving this. I don't know if I really like... yeah, living here would be pretty much like living in New York, which I don't know if I would like. I mean, there's just like no trees, but then there are trees if you go to like the park. So it's interesting. There's a building that says Trump International. Go figure. So I actually am going to this museum for free. How was I able to do this? Well, credit cards, once you own them, come with special offers, and these are offers that most people have because they have credit cards, but they never know about because they don't do their research, and therefore they never utilize. And Bank of America has a feature that allows you on the first week end of every month to go to certain select museums for free if you show them your credit card and an ID. And so this is one of the perks that credit cards have, along with other stuff like purchase protection, that people don't take advantage of. Do you realize that if you break your laptop or your phone, you could in effect have a free one replaced for you if you only exercised your credit card protection? So that's something that you should just be aware of. And this is really my first real thing that I've used this for. I've known about credit card protection and the other benefits for a while, but I'm like, I don't know if museums. But you know, since then, since my bit of disdain for museums, they did seem rather boring, I started seeing them in a fresh light. I'm like, okay, maybe museums aren't boring. And that was mainly due to my New York City vlog trip. I made a video on that, so check that out if you want to see how I was kind of swayed and changed in my opinion on the beauty of museums. I mean, literally, the people devote a large percentage of their time over their life to curating and compiling all this stuff in the museum. So here I am. I'm going to check it out and use my Bank of America credit card to test this thing out. I think it'll be interesting to see what this museum has to offer. I am doing the Newseum. The Newseum is a special museum for civil rights archives as well as other newsworthy related documents and so forth. So I'm interested to see what will be in this museum. Hopefully I can actually get in for free. Will I be able to? Will I not? I mean, I've run into situations before where, you know, online they say you can, and then like some screw up with bureaucracy. Oh, look at all these flags. Some screw up with bureaucracy or mix up causes it so that when you actually go to the museum, nothing, they won't let you in. And this hasn't happened specifically with a museum, but it's just happened before where I've like spent all this time to prepare and go to an event. Maybe it's a networking event of some sort, and then I arrive too late, or they end early, or the parking's atrocious, or you get there and they're like, oh yeah, you have to pay $20, and that just sucks. And was this museum trip really free? No, because I had to pay, you know, $10-15 for parking plus the time cost. So nothing's really free in life technically, because there's a time cost associated with it. But you have to contrast that to what you would have sacrificed in this place. So maybe you just sat home and done nothing and had a boring life. Well, then maybe going to something like this would be perfect for you. Another interesting thing about this museum is that it literally is in the straight up prime real estate area of DC. Like, we're currently smack dab in the middle of it all. I mean, check out the fashion sense here. It's very autumny, black street vibe. But yeah, here's what I mean by prime real estate. Archives of the United States of America. And I think there's a bunch of other like really well-known buildings up ahead next to this museum. So if it's got such prime real estate, I'm assuming it's a pretty good museum here. Like, this is definitely like the heart of DC. I passed that other building that I don't know the name of, but it's the one with like the really tall and thin building. Look at that, there's another museum there, I believe. Check that out, guys. It's some type of sculpture of a man, really muscular man. And he's wrestling a horse down or something. And then up ahead, you can kind of see that building there. I don't know what it is. Could be the White House, could be just some other building. I'm assuming it's not the White House, but I mean, there's like a million US flags on it. When I drove past it, it's like US flags everywhere. Pretty cool place, honestly. Pretty chill. It's not too loud. Like, you can barely hear any noise. That's another thing. When Casey Neistat was filming his vlog when he visited DC the day after the president was elected, and he remarked on how quiet it was, where you could literally hear someone speaking and testing a microphone, even though there's a bunch of people walking around. I wouldn't say it's that quiet. There's definitely people talking around me, but it's kind of masked a bit by the wind. And then on top of that, there's but overall I think there's less noise compared to New York. It's pretty tame. I think that's not just because of the culture. I think it's also because more people are on their phones and headphones now, so they have less need to talk. Having said that, no one around me has headphones on. I made it. So yeah, this is clearly some type of newspaper museum. To be honest, I'm very curious to see what this museum is like. Wondering if I'll learn something about how to write better for my blog, how to reach more people, how to, find and frame a story that really gets the world going. Like, look at this one. This one was released. Oh hell, all of these were released today from all over the world. This is the Omaha Herald. This is where Warren Buffett is from. Star Tribune, the Berkshire Edge. A bunch of these from Nebraska. I guess they curated all of these. Here's one from Kansas. They have their labels at the bottom. So someone is getting the museum is pretty much curating all these, and these all have dates that are very recent, with very recent news. So I thought it was old stuff, but it's new. Idaho. And if you look, I think there's a standard practice of how they're capturing their images and then the format of their text. It's always one big image, you can kind of see, and then like it breaks out into smaller text. So I find that very fascinating. I think, they've definitely been split testing this for decades, if not centuries, and really trying to figure out not only the best way to lay these out to make money, but also what phraseology will really grab the attention. I think this one kind of fails. Like, legislators want to probe. That just puts me to sleep. This one, 1 million more asked for budget. It's such a curiosity-provoking headline. Grabs you in. And then here, same type of thing. One huge image, and then you break down into smaller stuff. Same thing, one huge image, smaller stuff. One huge image, smaller. Title of your brand at the top. I think this is something you should perhaps model your website on if you have a news website.
Simon was in the Philippines. So-called drug having spent 35 days there.
I remember him coming.
Story of how disastrous it may be. The human element is the most important thing. It's the thing that really reaches out and touches you.
Well, it's really such an honor. I mean, it's, man, you just look at it, you look at the people who have made these images before you, they're photographers who I've looked up to for my entire career, you know, they're people who have captured moments in history.
The corpse. A crowd stands in a semicircle around the tree and watches. Some in the crowd are smiling and laughing. Thailand was in turmoil. The return of the country's ousted right-wing dictator ignited student protests. On October 6, 1976, a mob backed by paramilitary troops stormed the campus of Bangkok's Thammasat University. A savage bloodbath ensued. Associated Press photographer Neil Ulovich was on the scene as troops threw grenades into classrooms and sprayed protesters with bullets. Scores of saw the limp body of a dead student hanging from one tree, and he said. A crowd of young people stood and laughed as a man met the corpse with a folding chair. Quote, their anger was white hot, end quote. Ulovich's photo appeared in newspapers around the world, but not in Thailand. The military seized power and suppressed
man. So that Pulitzer Prize exhibit was just like 90% was tragic, violent, death, suffering. I guess the main word suffering. It was like either famine, shootings, massacres, genocide, trying to escape from country, refugees, death, violence. I didn't really say that was the most enjoyable exhibit, but it was a thought-provoking one. What's interesting is that a few of the places that were shot as photos, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, those are places I want to visit for vacation. They're tropical, they have beautiful beaches. And, you know, granted, these things did happen in the 70s, but it makes me wonder, like, is it still as violent and politically charged and dangerous, or, you know, can you be screwed over? Or is it simply the fact that it is completely calm and peaceful now? Now, many of these travel vloggers and YouTubers and bloggers say that it's not the case anymore, that news will exaggerate how it was and how things have changed, but I don't know, like, are they right? Maybe, but are they 100% right? I don't know. Some of these people are young and they probably don't read history or news stories or really do as much research as they should on how political and dangerous a place is, but I could be wrong. Anyhow, on to that next exhibit. Really gets you thinking. Like, there's even quite a few photos of stuff that happened in the US that was just as bad. Like, you can screw up tremendously in the US. There's a picture of a couple who were crying because their baby was washed away by the beach when they weren't looking. Check it out. I think they transported those from the Berlin Wall to this museum. These are, okay, so you can't touch it, but you can get pretty close to this. That is awesome. So this is the graffitied side. And it's a non-graffitied side. Save for this one thing here. Was this whole thing transported from the Berlin Wall? Oh, you can go inside. Jesus Christ. Oh, it's not smooth at all. Okay, you can't read it, but it's a death tower. They use this for war. This stuff has a lot of history behind it. I don't know. That thing is a literal war tower that used to be in Berlin and transported to a museum in Germany, and now has been transported here. This thing was right next to anti-tank cannons, razor wire, barbed wire, troops, tanks, everything. There's probably a lot of people who spoke languages I can't understand who were in this or around this. The history is just insane. Look at those holes on the Berlin Wall. Like, why are there holes there? What's interesting is there's still a bit of graffiti on this side. Maybe that happened after they tore it down and people from that side came over to this side. I don't know.
Changed world politics for a generation. To pick up the pieces.
There were a pack of kids all the time. Grown-ups weren't there. I mean, they were either trying to find some food or get lives going.
Tear up the sidewalks and streets. Begin to think concrete posts and string barbed wire along the border.
There were these army people rolling barbed wire roads across the road. I said, what I listened to is that we are only war.
Are we serving the public by publishing that they've identified the suspect and is under surveillance?
The public demand has changed. They want incremental reporting. Well, incremental reporting is sometimes going to be wrong. There was more misinformation that was delivered and communicated during that time than I can ever see in my history.
This is the actual rifle, not a prop.
On the internet, not passed by anybody. So it was wrong. Never mind, it wasn't in the interest of the investigation.
More information that gets out results in more information coming in.
That's the actual car.
What you saw is the FBI.
So this is a timeline of how they tracked this guy, put him in prison. Starting with what was in the car. He was trying to set off a bomb, but the bomb didn't explode. But they still found the attempted thing by tracing what was in the car. Gas tanks, clocks, video surveillance. Search for clues. They identify his VIN number. They identify the last registered owner, which has been sold for cash on Craigslist. Through that, they find him going on a flight to Dubai from the JFK, and then he admits it. They find evidence.
The FBI changed a lot very quickly. And I think that they have come to realize that change is a continuum. Not like we change and we can stop.
But he's also wearing a Army field jacket. He's carrying an AK-47, places it behind
That right there, and that right there came from the engines of the World Trade Center attack. They literally transported this stuff, and I'm right in front of it. That's really cool and creepy. Now this one's fascinating. This guy evaded authorities for 17 years, and he was finally caught when he submitted a 35K thesis to newspapers, and first off, the newspapers debated, the cost of printing that, but they were urged by the police, and then his brother recognized his writing. So you can be identified by how you write. And this right here goes into specific phrases that I guess they used to trace his work to his earlier writing. So in 2001, this guy was caught by flight attendants. When he started lighting the fuse, they saw him, and then other passengers helped restrain him. Now he's serving time in prison. So there are success stories here. That was that's supposedly the actual Adidas tracksuit this guy wore, which is crazy. Kind of scary too. I'm like a couple feet away from it. They transported the entire cabin that the Unabomber was caught in to this museum, which is a bit over the top, but there you go. See what's inside. No, just an empty cabin.
Or other vulnerabilities and essentially trying to steal information or steal money or whatever the objective of the actor is. Much of what we call cybercrime is an extension of the types of crimes that have been with us for decades or even centuries. The difference comes down to the proximity of the criminal versus the target.
A lot of it for the FBI was basically putting a big complex puzzle together to figure out who ultimately is behind the keyboard, so to speak, conducting this activity. We have hacktivists, we have terrorists, we have folks who commit espionage.
This was his shoe bomb. A bit ridiculous, but oh no, this is a mock-up version. It's not the real thing. Oh, smart. There's a doctor on board who used the medical kit to sedate him. We have here's a potential travel hacker, one of the first to exist. This lady was on board the second flight to Disneyland with her child, and these were possessions found when they crashed into the Trade Center. The reason why I think she was a travel hacker was because these were the early days of the credit card travel hacking industry, and she already has the Sky Miles Platinum. So that's interesting. Sad. Kind of sucks too. But it is what it is. So this is the kidnapping of the century. Long story short, the aviation hero Charles Lindbergh, this guy had a 20-month-year-old kidnapped, and he was given a $50,000 ransom, which is not inflation adjusted, so it was more now if you adjust for inflation. He paid that ransom, but they gave him back the child dead. The somewhat good side to this story is that they found the carpenter who did it and arrested him. So they did that through the handwriting and analysis of the ransom notes. So, you know, I think the lesson here is that if you're famous, you have other dangers you have to account for. You know, get guards, get security, otherwise stuff like this will happen. And then even if you pay a ransom, when you're dealing with crooks, people who did something dishonest in the first place to get that ransom, you might naturally expect more dishonest behavior.
Chief Moose would come out every day, maybe twice a day.
So if anyone remembers the 2002 sniper situation, which I actually do, apparently this was the actual phone booth that they made a threatening call on in Richmond, Virginia. And I don't know if that's a mock gun or not. It doesn't say. According to this, that might actually be the real gun. It doesn't explicitly say that, but there it is. I only remember two main things about this. One is that they told the kids you have to like hide under the tables if something suspicious happens. The second was that all the news outlets were saying that they were driving around in a white van. Yet there's like millions of white vans out there. And the irony of it is that they caught him in a blue sedan. So there's a bit of backlash on the media's over-exaggeration of the white van factor. And that's one of the big things about news that I don't like, which is that they overhype or over-exaggerate, or it's just a natural byproduct of it. But then you get over-exaggerated perceptions of how dangerous a country is or so forth. Well, that's it. So it is 5 o'clock and they kicked everyone out of the museum because that's when the museum closes. So this museum, called Newseum for its news-related archives and documents. Here's my review of it. Okay, so I only had time to look at 3 of the exhibits there. The first was the Pulitzer Prize winning exhibit, which archives all the Pulitzer Prize winning photos. The second one was the Berlin Wall exhibit, and then the third one was the FBI exhibit. These exhibits were the exact ones that the front desk receptionist recommended when I asked which ones to go to. So here's my thoughts and review on this. I thought this museum is definitely one that will get you into a serious mood, get you thinking about life. It's thought-provoking. It's not a happy-go-lucky, emotional museum. I just think by the nature of the topics that seem to get the most reaction, whether outrage or fear, being the 2 big ones, though that's why this museum isn't one that's really going to be pretty fun. It's because most of the stuff here is pretty serious and scary. So unfortunately, not good times. But nonetheless, I think it was very thought-provoking, and not being aware of how history portrays itself is something that will doom you to repeat history, or at least, make the same mistakes that you don't have to make because others previously have made those mistakes and you can learn from them. Like I hinted at throughout this vlog, the one thing I don't like about news is that by its nature it kind of overinflate and exaggerate things. So one of the big things that travel vloggers and bloggers say is that many of these countries people assume are dangerous to travel to are actually much safer, and you get this false impression because media and fake news, or not even fake news, but news will blow it out of proportion so that 1 death or 10 deaths will seem like the whole country's going to its death. So I didn't really like that aspect of it. You could definitely step out of any of these exhibits just like scared or very pessimistic. So just keep that in mind. It's more of a news themed museum than a history themed, but very fascinating. A lot of smoke in this area. Very fascinating. The photography was exceptional. There were good moments too, such as that photo in the first exhibit with the Olympics, and then a few other really cool stuff. The Spy Museum. It's interesting how they do their investigation. I was very anxious to see how that works, and they didn't really reveal any like tech gadgets or like cool gizmos that you might expect when you watch spy movies. Like a lot of it just came down to very basic stuff, at least from what they revealed in the exhibit. So basically, like, you trace someone by their VIN number and fingerprints, and you improve the fingerprint identification technology. You trace phone calls, and you trace handwriting and the way someone writes, and you put it out to the world so that the world as a whole can help you trace and identify stuff like that. So like, comes back to the fundamentals, I believe. Like, no crazy spy gadgets necessary. So there's also a spy museum in the area, and that one I would be very interested in seeing one day, which I might. I think it's incredibly awesome idea to have a spy museum. Obviously, they probably couldn't reveal all of their secrets, but you get to see like all the crazy stuff they were doing in the 60s, 70s, and leading up to where they are now in terms of what real spies do. And I think when you compare fantasy with reality, the weird thing about it is that sometimes reality beats fantasy. Sometimes the world is such a crazy, amazing, complicated place that what someone comes up with in a fiction novel cannot rival what reality itself constructs. So it'd be interesting to see what type of spy stuff is in there. But I would give this museum a rating of a 4 out of 5, with a strong emphasis that this is definitely for people who are more serious and they care more about thought-provoking stuff. It costs $25 if you don't have that Bank of America, any Bank of America credit card, and you don't use that offer. So check it out. I just realized I'm walking past the J. Edgar Hoover FBI building, and look at all these variations of flags here. We got the American flag all over, but we also got the this other one here, and then some of the other variations before the original one we have now, or not original, the final one we have. So this is really cool. I'm curious what kind of stuff happens in this building. Cool spy stuff. I heard from someone who worked in the FBI building that there's a Starbucks in the FBI building. I can't remember where I heard that. I think it was from Howard Schultz's book, founder of Starbucks. But I can't remember. It might have been from another book. But they have somehow Howard Schultz was able to get Starbucks installed in one of the top secret FBI underground buildings. I can't remember where I heard it from. Maybe it was like someone I knew, but that's like, there's literally like a secret underground FBI building, and it wasn't really Howard Schultz who did it. It was the fact that the people who worked there wanted Starbucks so much that they went ahead and they pretty much petitioned to have a Starbucks in there, even though it was like top secret government clearance. I think like the baristas there had to have like clearance too, which is crazy. This is a straight up gym. And it was open when I first came here at the start of this vlog, but no one was manning this place. Huh. Now it's locked because it's closed. That's the strangest thing. They have a gym with like a dance room and towels at a parking garage. But I asked the receptionist what this place was above here, and it's just like an office building. So I'm assuming this is just like your standard generic gym for office people in DC. Somehow this gym has been able to beat competition of big box chain gyms like Planet Fitness to reside here. I guess a lot of real estate. Interesting. And check this out. They have electric charge stations they call juice bars here to charge your electric Tesla. So that's it for the vlog. Thanks for watching the whole thing. Let me know what your thoughts are on travel. Do you prefer traveling to exotic beaches, which is what I prefer doing, or do you prefer, going to museums and just going to these more boring establishments? I mean, not boring, maybe it's interesting to you. Let me know your thoughts. I can see the value of both. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.